Chelsea back to winning ways with a 3-1 win over Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I have to say that's a very good result for Chelsea. It wasn't the easiest game in the world, but they have a lot of players missing. They're not in their best run of form, and I think that win was needed. And it was a bit of a reverse result for Chelsea because they looked a lot better in this game. But I've watched Chelsea over the last few games, and you guys have had quite a good first half where you look really good the opening 20 minutes. You go 1-0 up, and then you seem to drop off. And then you seem to let the opposition get back into the game. And, you're 1-0 up and then you have all these chances to make it 2-0 and you're not taking chances and you're not being clinical. Whereas today was different because you were good in the second half. Whereas I feel in a lot of games you've dropped off in the second half and were good in the first half and you've let it go. Whereas today you got back into it, you were good in the second half and you were a lot more clinical today, taking your chances. Chelsea obviously deserve to win this game. You can look at the XG and the big chances created versus Wolves. But I have to say the first half was a lot more equal and there was a mixture of positives and negatives from Chelsea. Just looking at Sanchez, he needs to go. He's not good enough as a keeper. He's got mistaken him. Reece James, I know he's a great player, but because he's been out for so long, you forget how good he is. And then when he comes back and you watch him play, the free kick last game, the performance today, you think, damn, this guy's good. Cucurella continues to have a good season. Chalobah, immense performance, man of the match. Tosin had a really good performance. Caicedo covering ground as always. Dewsbury Hall, I think the problem with Dewsbury Hall is he hasn't had a run of games or a run of starts. So I feel for him a little bit. Palmer didn't get a goal and assist, but he was influencing the game. And to be honest, Madueke, he fed him. Like the last Wolves game, he fed Madueke and created a few chances. Nicholas Jackson, I feel like his movement was good and he was a little bit unlucky not to score today. He did really well for the offside goal. But I know Madueke got the goal. He sort of stole it from Chalobah. But I felt that Chelsea's wingers were ineffective today. And they've been linked to Garnacho, they've been linked to Gittins. And I've always said, Chelsea for me need a centre-back and goalkeeper before anything else. But I feel like they probably need a bit more competition on the wings. And I know that they've got Esteval coming in, but I felt that the wingers were not the most effective today. But let's talk about Chelsea and just break it down as a Man United fan's perspective. So these are my notes, and I probably should have shortened the notes actually because that's quite wordy on screen. So I do apologise for that. But as I said, Chalobah was excellent. I've said this about Chalobah the whole time, and this is, I don't like the way that Chelsea handled the Chalobah and Gallagher situation. I get, if you want to sell players, get them out, be brutal. But when Chalobah had been at Chelsea since he was 8, and he, for me, is better than Disasi, better than ECILA, and I've always said that. And I thought he was really good the second half of the season under Poch when he was called upon. For him to be forced out, not allowed to train, go to Palace, and then because you're in a bit of a crisis, called back in, dropped in that game and put in that kind of performance. That speaks so much about Chalobah's mentality. Reece James, probably not even fully fit, has had all these injury issues, all these surgeries. He comes back and not even fully fit, and he's just a different level of right back. Reece James today, who's been out for so long, in the games he's come back when not fully fit, has dropped a performance that is basically better than pretty much most other right backs in the league drop. Like, he's such a talented player. But yeah, look, Palmer, I don't think looked 100% in terms of fitness. But he had some good moments in the game, but I don't like him as the left centre mid. I think Palmer plays better when Enzo plays because Enzo's actually an underrated player creatively, and I think teams just look to lock out Palmer because he's like the only real creative threat when there's no Enzo. Whereas when Enzo's there, teams have to split responsibility because Enzo's movement means that the opposition have to cover Enzo a bit more, and then Palmer gets a bit more freedom and space. I also think Palmer's just better naturally on that right hand side because he's your best finisher, best shooter, he gets the shots off. Look, I don't think Madueke had his best game. He was more lively in the second half. He helped with the goal, slowing down the game. I think he stole the Chalobah goal, to be honest, but fair enough. I thought him and Neto didn't have the best games. I think Sancho's sub was right for Maresca. Maresca still needs to make subs early. I feel like he could use João Felix more. But yeah, I thought that the first half on the wingers was a poor and ineffective game. And I'm a massive fan of Pedro Neto, by the way. I really wanted Man United to sign him, but he's a different player. If he plays on the right, he's good, but when he plays on the left, I'm not convinced by him. Maybe that's just me. Let me know your thoughts because he's a bit more, he likes to cross. But yeah, Madueke was running into people at times, but he did get much better in the second half. Madueke is a player I'm so hit and miss on because sometimes I watch him and I think he's a good player with loads of good raw attributes. And then other times I watch him and he's wasteful. It's a little bit like Garnacho. There's so much good there, but sometimes it's the decision making and the selfishness that can ruin it sometimes. And you guys have been linked to Garnacho, but I think you're being used to get Napoli to pay the money, to be honest. But he's a young player and you guys like young players. Enzo was missed. I thought the first half was slow, and Enzo, for me, with his movement, tempo setter, Enzo's movement and Enzo's ability to want to get on the ball, and he moves the ball quicker. And I felt that Enzo was missed. I think Enzo Fernandez was a player that got a bit stick at the start of the season, then has played himself into form. But I've always feel that actually he's a little bit underrated in what he does off the ball, his movement, the energy that he provides Chelsea. Not having Lavia and not having Enzo is a big loss because your midfield's already thin. And then to have those two players missing, it is very thin at the moment. I presume you could recall Leslie on from your loan. Maybe you go for Douglas Luiz, who's on the market as well. But look, Chelsea, this team lost focus. They go 1-0 out, they control the game, they lose focus, they let balls in it. It's an awful goal to concede. Should have probably got a clean sheet. There was mistakes galore. And you went 1-1, and I thought, is this going to be one of those games where, Chelsea missed chances, they dropped points to Wolves, la-di-la. Obviously, they had injuries, not their best 11. But you know what? They won the game. They deserved to win the game. It was an important win. And I thought the mentality and fight you showed in the second half was much improvement. And you're back and forth, which is absolutely key for confidence and momentum because City are catching you, other teams are catching you. And I think fifth will get you in the Champions League. But I think Chelsea's goal is to get Champions League football next season. And I think if you get Champions League football next season, that's a really good season. Even though you guys have dropped off. And there's a point where you were much closer to Liverpool. If you've got to think where you were at the start of the season, I think if you get Champions League football, that's a really good season and a really good job done by Maresca. And while I criticise Maresca for his lack of substitutions and maybe a bit of favouritism there, I think that, he's done a good job so far. And I think that this could be a win that gives Chelsea confidence. And I know Man City are back in form, but they are definitely gettable. I think if Chelsea can have a few players back for that game, they're gettable. But I want to talk about Reece James. Reece James registered more chances created, 2, and more successful take-ons, 2 out of 2, and more passes into the final third, 15, than any other Chelsea player against Wolves. 3 out of 3 tackles as well. He is an unbelievable player, Reece James. He's always out for so long, and then he comes back and it looks effortless. The free kick he scored last week, the way he can come back effortlessly. He, for me, is a top player. These are my notes on him. I've always said Trent, I think right now is the best right back in football because he's playing a lot more and his skill, what he can do, like to break a game. But if Reece James stays fit, he gives Trent a run for his money because Reece James is a more complete player. Reece James fully fit would be my first choice for England. Like, I think Trent's an unbelievable player, but I've always said Reece James fully fit, and England have been so unlucky because Reece James and Luke Shaw, when they're fit, they're good. But it could have been a different Euros with a fully fit Luke Shaw and Reece James rather than Kieran Trippier and Carl Walker playing because Southgate wasn't going to pay Trent. He's such a good player, but luckily we've got Lewis Hall coming through at right back, and even Tino Livramento. The Cobham is producing, and I want to talk about Cobham because I always say this: some of your Cobham players, the talent you have. I mean, Livramento, Lewis Hall, it's unbelievable. Anyway. Reece James been out injured and it was effortless for him. He comes back, he's even making sprints with his hamstring, which is risky, winning the ball, making tackles, winning the duels of ease, and then he gets forward and delivers. Nice cross, nice set pieces, nice first touch. Whenever he gets the ball, he takes the first touch, controls the ball like it's second nature to him. Absolute joke of a player. He's so complete. He uses his physicality to push people off the ball. He uses his physicality so well. He's good 1v1 going forward. He's good 1v1 defensively. He's got that recovery speed. I love watching Reece James. You know what? I'm a Man United fan and I want Reece James to stay fit. I think anyone does. Anyone's a fan of football wants Reece James to stay fit, even if you don't like Chelsea. Because if you love football, you'll know that this guy is an unbelievable player and he does not deserve the injury luck that he's had. I want him to stay fit as a Man United fan because he's too good to be constantly injured. I feel for the guy. And he comes back and he's a leader and he's a captain and he puts in a top performance every time. And talking of mentality, Chalobah was man of the match today. And this isn't just because, the circumstances. He was man of the match because he was the best player on the pitch. These are his stats. 6 out of 8 duels won, 2 recoveries, 3 interceptions, 7 clearances, 2 out of 3 long balls won. Monster performance from Chalobah. Got the assist, could have been a goal as well. Absolutely good. I think he's really mobile as a centre-back. Really, really mobile as a centre-back. And Dugan said this well. On paper, it shouldn't be difficult for a lone player that's been playing regularly to be recalled and hit the ground running. But given the manner in which Trevoh Chalobah was frozen out and everything that followed, he's been very impressive. And Dugan's hit the nail on the head. And I've always said this, Chalobah is underrated. I got stick in the summer. Man United needed to sign 2 centre-backs in the summer, and Everton were taking the mick with Jared Braithwaite, and I wasn't 100% convinced on De Ligt. I'm not going to lie, back in summer. And I said, as a second centre-back signing, I would take Trevoh Chalobah from Chelsea. I said, if you can get Trevoh Chalobah from Chelsea for 30 million, I think that's good business from Man United. And because I've got a Man United fan channel, everyone was giving me stick. No, Chalobah's overrated, he's rubbish. No, he's not. I feel like because he's an academy player, doesn't have the fanciest name. people are like, oh no, he's not that good. No, I'd have taken Chalobah at United because he's a good centre back. He's a mobile centre back. He does a job. You know, Chalobah, for me, at Manchester United, he starts. He's a good player. I've always said that. I've always said Chalobah is an underrated player, and he stepped up and he showed his value in that second half on the pitch. I think he's better than Disassi. I think he's better than Madueke when he put in a man of match performance. If you just spent 60 million on Chalobah, and let's say he was a French player playing in La Liga, and he dropped that kind of performance, imagine the amount of people raving about Chalobah. The people that wanted Chalobah gone would have been, oh, this guy's so good, if he was a new 60 million pound signing with a fancy name. I feel like I feel like he's a better player than he gets credit for. I really do. And I think Cobham, you look at Reece James, you look at Chalobah, the talent that Cobham has produced, Chelsea need to use that more. And I think this whole PSR selling players is a little bit sad because I look at the talent that Cobham has produced and it's incredible. You talk about Lewis Hall, you talk about Livramento, Mark Gay, even Elise. I mean, if you really want to throw about Musiala, but obviously that's not all because of PSR in that. But Cobham has produced some crazy players. But yeah, big up to Chalobah. Very good wide channel defender, very mobile, very much can deal with stuff in the air, good box defender, good with the ball at his feet, really good player. If that was a 60 million new signing making his debut today, people would have been raving. Shout out to Tosin as well, he also had a good game, and I thought him and Chalobah complemented each other quite well. I saw this by Pythagoras and Boots saying take about Chalobah. Cunha and Larson, unbelievable players, but he rendered them ineffective as well. Tosin had one of his best games. They seem to complement each other well. But yeah, I thought the way he's handled the whole situation mentally has been really good, and I thought the performance today was fantastic. You know, the character he got, but also just everything about him. So yeah, big props to him. But I want to talk about Moises Caicedo. Just another good standard game for him. Just ground coverage, monstrous. He does the hard work. He wins the duels. Wolves have good midfielder. I rate João Gomez. I rate Andre. Lemina's been good for them. They have really good players. I actually think I think Wolves massively. I think Wolves' defense is what's let them down this season. But Moises Caicedo, ground coverage, winning duels, doing the dirty work, and then getting the game ticking, playing out from the back. Very good and underrated performance from him. As always, other pointers I made from the game was just, like no Lavia and Enzo. I think Chelsea thin in midfield. Vega looks like he's on the move. I do like Vega. I'd like to see more of him. He could play in midfield, but it looks like he's on the move. Maresca still think makes his subs late. I think João Felix could have come on earlier, to be honest. And yeah, I like Jackson. I really do like Jackson, but I can see the frustration with him. Maresca wanted Duran and Omorodi on what he's called in the summer, like a proper box striker. And I can see in games like that why they'd want that box striker poacher, because Jackson's all-round game is really good, but sometimes he doesn't have those instincts. But I still look at Chelsea and I think winger, box striker, centre-back, goalkeeper definitely needs another midfielder, I think, for depth, because Lavia's injury record. And then you just got to hope Reece James stays fit. And I think that Chelsea have a really good base for the squad, but they've been massively dropping off lately. And I think a lot of it is due to the lack of experience, a little bit maybe tiredness setting in. It's a mentality thing. There's a lack of experience there. This is Maresca's first season. He's going to learn and make mistakes, and there's going to be setbacks, and there's a lack of experience in that squad. And I think that's going to cost Chelsea at times. And also, I think the lack of depth. We talk about Chelsea's squad being so big, but how many of those players does Maresca actually like and trust? And that's just one thing that Chelsea got to work on. But anyway, that is my thoughts on Chelsea. I just wanted to agree with this. Big win, not the prettiest performance, but equally it's 3 goals and only didn't keep a clean sheet because of a keeper howler. Things need to improve and recruitment needed, but at least the form is back. And I think that's a big win for Chelsea if they want to get back on track. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time. Bye.